Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. Thank you to all of you guys on BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey for your continued support. All of you on New Tech, of course, as well as everyone here on YouTube. Thank you guys, as always, for your continued support.
All right, guys, so we start things off from the Honkening news. If you aren't familiar, there is a large protest in Canada over the mandates there, and we have truck drivers, not only in Canada, but some in the United States as well, that are protesting the vaccine mandates there in Canada. So from CTV News, Ottawa police, city lawyers considering court order to end convoy protest. Ottawa police and city lawyers are discussing applying for a court injunction as means of ending the ongoing trucker convoy protest, with Ottawa Police Service City Peter Slowly saying Wednesday that the situation is intolerable and unprecedented, and it should be, because they had a BLM march down there not too long ago where Justin Trudeau came out and actually gathered with them, and we'll get into that here momentarily. But I find it interesting because not a lot of people apparently are aware of this or understand the significance and volumes of people that are participating. And we see here, our message to the citizens of Ottawa is one of empathy, said senior convoy leader Chris Barber in the release. We understand your frustration and genuinely wish there was another way for us to get our message across, but the responsibility for your inconvenience lies squarely on the shoulders of our politicians, who have preferred perhaps to vilify and call us names rather than engage in respectful, serious dialogue. This is absolutely correct. Just like I was saying, you're not hearing a lot of this from the mainstream media here in the States, a little bit from Fox News, but certainly not to the degree and volume that Black Lives Matter or Antifa and other organizations, Black Bloc and these other groups get. For example, as we mentioned earlier this week about the Women's March and their collapse, of course. And if you guys haven't checked out that video, I'll post that up here in the top right-hand corner. Deputy Chief Trish Ferguson estimated that the protest crowds ranged from 8,000 to 15,000, with thousands of truckers at the protest on a Saturday, but had significantly dropped off over time. Ferguson said that the service has deployed hundreds of officers and is now in a state of stabilization, and that police have moved to more strictly enforce bylaws outside of the district downtown core. So citations and so forth like that, should that be necessary. But I found it very interesting that when I talk to people about this, they try to play down the numbers. And of course, right here we see, was it 8,000 to 15,000 truckers? And, you know, and it's just being played down by the mainstream media and by the media there in Ottawa as well. But the numbers right here are from Deputy Chief Trish Ferguson. From the Daily Mail, Canada state broadcaster spreads bizarre conspiracy theory that Russian actors are behind 50,000-strong freedom convoy of truckers protesting Justin Trudeau's vaccine mandate. Police threaten to arrest truckers blockading the U.S. border in Alberta. Now, I want to make it clear here that American truckers are supposed to be vaccinated if they're going to go into Canada. Those are the requirements at the border. And, of course, the Americans will respect the border of the Canadians versus, you know, our southern border, which is a different story. But it's interesting how they're going into this Russian actors, this Russian conspiracy, something very familiar to us here in the States after 2.5 years of pushing a Russian conspiracy or Russian collusion on then President Trump, which we now know and has been confirmed, and we have all the information, and we've covered it here on the channel, was a completely fabricated story that was being pushed. But of course, no one was punished for disinformation and misinformation because, of course, it was the left that generated it. Part of the establishment plan, of course, to make President Trump look as bad as possible. Canada's state broadcaster, the Canadian Broadcasting Company, is spreading a bizarre and unfounded conspiracy theory. I wonder if they're going to get kicked off Twitter, that Russian actors are behind the Freedom Convoy trucker vaccine mandate protest currently being held in Ottawa and at the U.S. border. Hardly unlikely that I would see any Canadian news station be suspended or removed off of Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any mainstream social media because, of course, they are protected and they are part of the establishment narrative. Now, speaking of Twitter, we see here there is a photo of a social media post attributed to Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is fabricated, fact checkers say. An image of a fabricated social media post falsely claimed Justin Trudeau made statements about unvaccinated people. I'm not sure what the actual information was, but nonetheless, it's really not as significant as the fact that, of course, we have the protests going on there in Canada. What I would be more concerned about would be something like this that Justin Trudeau posted. Today in the House, members of Parliament unanimously condemned the anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-black racism, homophobia, and transphobia that we've seen on display in Ottawa over the past number of days. That is absolutely absurd. This is what Justin Trudeau should be held accountable for, is this statement right here. This is what people should be questioning. Did he actually say that? Together, let's keep working to make Canada more inclusive. That is absolutely absurd. This is an opportunity for Justin Trudeau to try to grab the basic mantra of the left. The truckers are there for a specific reason. They are specifically there because of the vaccine mandate. They aren't there to protest any other ideological, philosophical, or world view while they're in Ottawa. They are there specifically for the mandate. There hasn't been any that I have seen of additional protesting or additional individuals there to protest other aspects of political or philosophical discourse. So this statement by Justin Trudeau is just absolutely an opportunity to inject himself in there and just bring up some left narrative mantra. And as the protest continues, it may seem to be having an effect. Removing COVID-19 restrictions is a gamble governments seem ready to take, it says here. When British Columbia's provincial health officer recently said the province was altering its pandemic strategy and beginning to manage COVID-19 more like a common cold, more than a few sips of coffee were spit out. That would be probably, Tim Hortons coffee, maybe? It was not a message most were expecting to hear from Bonnie Henry. So in other words, they weren't anticipating hearing the possibility of the mandates actually ending, like we saw in the United Kingdom. And of course, the mandate here in the United States, which was just straight up unconstitutional and unlawful. But Joe Biden pushed it anyway, very much like the 2.5-year fabrication of Russian collusion. So there was an article that actually said that they were considering removing the COVID restrictions, but it wasn't because of the truckers. It wasn't because of the truckers. It wasn't because of the protest. And we know this firsthand, of course, because as I do my research and as I follow some of my typical commentators like Vivafrey, who is a Canadian attorney, very great commentator, very knowledgeable about Canadian law and actually quite knowledgeable about American law, did a 6-hour, actually almost a 7-hour live stream from the actual protest. And from what I have seen, I didn't see any other form of demonstration or protest about any other philosophical, ideological topic that would require. I didn't see anyone protesting BLM. I didn't see anyone protesting Antifa. I didn't see anyone protesting the typical things that Justin Trudeau just brought up to suggest that these groups of people were there. No, I think he was very selectively making that message as a dog whistle to the community. Very much like the dog whistle of Joe Biden saying he wanted to select a black justice for the court. He went from a bottom-up approach instead of a top-down approach by saying we want to select a very competent, capable, knowledgeable, experienced justice who just so happens to be black, perhaps. And of course, that has created a whole other set of problems for Joe Biden. But Vivafrey definitely covered it for nearly 7 hours. And what I've seen from his material, there was really nothing there. And he has even commented on the fact specifically that while he was there, he didn't see any other forms of protest that was included in Justin Trudeau's statement. And of course, we have Rebel News out of Canada also that's been covering a lot of the convoy. And a lot of what I've seen from them, I've not seen any other form of protest outside of the fact that they are directly focusing on vaccine mandates. So, of course, we also have Avi Amini there in Australia, who's still covering all the activity going on there in Australia as well. So Rebel Media, and of course our good buddy Portland Andy. I'm sure many of you guys remember Portland Andy because he is one of the few creators here on YouTube that still cover the protests that are going on all the way back to the original George Floyd protest. He has been covering this. He's covering it right now. He's actually live. Convoy to Ottawa Thursday, which is, as of this recording, January the 3rd. So Portland Andy's on top of this as well, and he's got a lot of material. I mean, hours upon hours upon hours of this material. Now, I've not seen any of his shows just yet. I've seen maybe about 5 to 10 minutes of it. But basically what Andy does is he broadcasts from his home. Sometimes he's on location, and then he just brings up all the feeds of individuals that are there that are broadcasting with their phones and cameras and other means of doing it. So if you guys are interested, you can go over to Rumble and look up Vivafrey as well as Rebel News. And of course, you can go on YouTube and look up Portland Andy if you guys want to see any of the live stream events. Now, I wanted to bring this up as well, something that Tim Poole mentioned the other day. From the Daily Mail, lockdowns, school closures, and limited gatherings only reduce COVID mortality by 0.2% at enormous economic and social cost, study finds. Now, here's what's interesting. The original C virus lockdowns had little to no effect on pandemic death tolls in the U.S., UK, and Europe, a controversial report suggests. A controversial report suggests, right? So they had to throw that word in there to kind of, again, tamp it down, very much like the numbers there of the Convoy. And this is from Economist, right? The controversy is coming from Economist, who carried out a meta-analysis found draconian restrictions imposed in spring 2020, including stay-at-home orders, compulsory mask, and social distancing, only reduce COVID mortality by 0.2%. So it's controversial, of course, because it doesn't match the escalated or hyper-inflated numbers that are often used by these individuals. And you see here, by how much percentage did lockdowns reduce COVID deaths? You see overall 0.2, stay at home 2.9, school closures 4.4, business closures 10.6, which was the largest, and then of course border closing at 0.1%. So extraordinarily low. Now, I don't want to just be dismissive of these numbers. If you can reduce any sort of pandemic or harm to society or people in general, then by all means exercise it. But also keep in mind that these are emergency measures, right? A mandate, for example, what Joe Biden was trying to push, is an emergency measure. These are not to be put in place for an indefinite long period of time. They are just there for an emergency. These are when they need to, kind of skirt around the Constitution or certain laws from time to time. But of course, the Constitution laws will always come first. But in the case of an emergency, certain liberties and flexibilities are granted. But we can't just hang on to these things for an extended period of time. Now, if you have not been here on the channel, or you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you guys here. But keep in mind, we have been covering this for quite some time. As you can see here in the Friday vlog from August the 16th, when I started covering the Hong Kong protests. This, of course, is months before we heard anything about the mystery pneumonia that was coming out of mainland China. But here on the BuzWeaver channel, we are on the cutting edge. We are right here. I'm a small-time, little tiny channel of 7,000 subscribers. So make sure you share, like this video, get it out there. But I try to cover this material. I try to take the confusing. I try to take the difficult. I try to take the misunderstood, the chaotic, and bring it down to a very simple level that everyone can understand, because it's very basic, and the media likes to confuse people. They like to just drum up this for clicks and information. But my little tiny little channel that I hope you guys can help grow, because we are fighting against the algorithm this year, by smashing that like and, of course, commenting on the video and sharing it. But nonetheless, guys, here on the BuzWeaver channel, we are on the cutting edge of making all of this news digestible and understandable. And that's what I had for you guys on this Friday from CTV News and the great honkening happening there in Canada.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the comments. For all of you on BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, thank you for your guys' support. And across all new tech, where you can find all those links below this video. So avail yourselves of that so you can see my daily post. And of course, all of you here on YouTube, thank you guys, as always, here in 2022. Be sure you hit that like button and make sure, as you see there appearing on the screen on YouTube, that would be the channel icon, that you can click on to subscribe, as well as select notifications. That way you guys will know when there's content here on the channel. And I will see all you guys right there behind that camera next week.